Quote number 4. This one simply comes from one of my favorite recent television shows. The show is slightly off color. The quote is too. I hope you'll forgive me. But if you've ever not seen The IT Crowd, which is a British sitcom centering on two guys who are running the IT department at a nameless, faceless corporation and the antics that they go through trying to help other people who are clueless with their computers. If you've not watched the show, I would highly recommend you try to watch a couple clips, at least on the internet, because you'll see the IT Crowd clips out there. Roy and Moss, kind of a great buddies comedy. But in one particular episode, Moss, who is the ultimate geeky character. This is a show, by the way, which celebrates geek culture. Before I explain much more about just the nature of geekiness, let me just give this quote, which is from Moss, played by the wonderful comic British actor Richard. I think it's Ayoade, but it's something like that. And Moss's line, and I'll explain a little bit more in just a sec, is this. I came here to drink milk and kick ass, and I've just finished my milk. And what I love about that quote is not only that it's just kind of funny on its own, and he is actually in a situation where he is going to try to kick some ass, but he's drinking milk because that's just part of who he is. But I think what I want to opine about this is the nature of geekiness, because this show is a geeky show. And a book that I recommended to some of you on this podcast, which you've enjoyed, you told me that online a few months ago, Ready Player One, that's a very geeky book as well. But my observation about geekiness is this. It grows less geeky and increasingly mainstream over time. Back when I first read The Lord of the Rings, somewhere back in the 1980s, I know some of you read it in the 70s and 60s, that was really pretty geeky stuff back then. Then it became a multi-billion-dollar movie franchise on top of all those books and all the history there. Or how about Star Trek or Star Wars? These are incredibly geeky franchises. They started with small splinter groups of fanatically geeky people who loved them, and yet now they all end up being, again, multi-billion-dollar franchises that run transmedia. It might be a lunchbox, it might be a movie, and everything in between. So I think part of the nature of things like Ready Player One, which, by the way, is about to go mainstream itself, Steven Spielberg is making it into a movie as we speak, is that I think what's really at the heart of this is that people seriously love these characters or situations or stories, and it's really the fanatical affection felt by, even if it starts as a small group of people, that really burns bright and can burn for a long, long time. And especially, I think, people often associate with geeky, fantastical things, sci-fi or swords and sorcery, fantasy, things that are not part of the here and now and the everyday. And so when you combine those two things, a fantastical thing and potentially a very geeky initial readership or listenership or audience, you have the stuff that makes, well, Harry Potter.
As always, people on this program may have interest in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against. So don't buy or sell stocks based solely on what you hear. Learn more about rule breaker investing at rbi.fool.com.